here's Brody Brazil.
Okay, I know you've already seen the title of this video. You're interested, so you clicked on it. I appreciate that. But I need to set the record straight from the very start. I'm not trying to instigate anything here. I'm not trying to insinuate anything here. In fact, I've got to play this disclaimer. This is only a video to capture public sentiment. These are the things and the feedback I'm hearing from fans that I interface with. And maybe, look, not even all the fans, but just the cross-section of those I talk to. They kind of have this feeling right now. But this is not an official project update. I don't want you to think this is coming from me and I know something about Howard Terminal, or I feel something, or I've heard something. That's not it at all. This is only about literally one thing: how a lot of fans are feeling and why they're feeling that way. And I think the main thing they're feeling is kind of bummed out about the Howard Terminal project, not what it could be or the hopes that it might come to fruition, but just the process and where things stand, and a lot of different aspects, which we'll get into kind of each part of that here in this video. But yeah, overall, the sentiment lately, right, it has not always been this way. 12 months ago, I wouldn't say this was it at all. Even 3 months ago, I don't think it was this. But the last couple of months, with not a lot going on, with not a lot of new developments to chew on or progress that seems tangible in the public eye, I've been talking to a lot of fans, and this kind of is the feeling. And frustrated may not be it, upset may not be it, but bummed out. I feel like that might hit the spot of what most fans are projecting, at least in the conversations and interactions that I've been having with them. So why are fans bummed out? Well, there's a couple different reasons, and one of the things I hear is, well, this is just taking so long. I mean, I understand. We knew from the onset of a new ballpark project in Oakland that it would take some time. And A's fans are approaching, 20 years of the new stadium process. But to be fair, part of that was the Fremont era. Part of that was the San Jose era. Part of that was maybe the Coliseum site era. Part of it was the Peralta site, the Laney College site in Oakland era. And now, for the last 4 years, we've been on the Howard Terminal era. So I do understand, for those of you who go back to the Cisco Field rendering days, I do understand why you're accumulating all of this kind of into one bucket. It's not like that. This process had to play out like that. But I also would understand those of you who are looking and saying, wait, wasn't it 4 years ago, more than 4 years ago now, 2018, 19, when the A's basically said Howard Terminal is what we're aiming for? And the answer to that is yes, it has been a long time, but we've also gone through a global pandemic. We've gone through some setbacks. I'm not here to, justify how long it's taken. I'm frustrated just like everybody else is in the process. But certainly we are getting to a point at 4+ years of, this alone has been taking a while, but I don't want to confuse one with the other. The way the A's are structured right now had nothing to do with all of those 20 years. But you as a fan, you see it as one continuous stretch. So I do understand that fan perspective. I'm just here to say you can't let the 20-year part bleed over into the here and now. Progress has been made. A lot of steps have been accomplished. This is as close as it's ever been. Come on. To say that it's not is nonsense. But yes, I do understand why some fans are bummed out, just because they've been invested in this for so long. And it's kind of like a movie, right? Even if you know the movie's going to end up in your favor and you like the outcome and you like the ending and the hero gets rewarded, a movie that's like 7 hours long, it's easy to lose interest in it. It's easy to be like, oh my gosh, how many twists and turns is this going to take? So I do understand, even when things work out just how you wanted, if it doesn't happen in some sort of timely fashion, it can kind of lose its luster. So I'm going to say I totally understand that. Some fans are also bummed out because they simply get lost in the process. I mean, look, I'm hanging on trying to figure out what comes next and after that and the bigger picture at all times. And for me, a sports person, even that has been difficult. It takes work to figure out what happens in this certain sequence, because The average fan gets lost in votes and meetings and approvals and agreements and arguments and deadlines and lawsuits. And for example, what is next? I know, but do you know right now? Well, there's two things. They need to have a development agreement, and then they need to figure out the gap in infrastructure money. They need to have a binding vote in Oakland. And then all of a sudden, it is kind of that domino effect. If Oakland's in, Alameda County's likely in, the BCDC is going to have to be back in, the State Lands Commission, but you kind of see how momentum would pick up as soon as we get past this part here right now. But I understand, for those of you who have been following this, and you keep seeing city council meetings and votes, and wait, well, whose term sheet is this? I totally get how easy it is to become lost in the process, because how many of us have ever really, truly been through this before like this? None of us, right? So I am not, I'm not saying I don't get it. I do understand. If you don't get this process, I relate with you. I understand that sentiment. It is something to kind of get, bummed out on. You just don't know. And it's a hard journey. It feels maybe sometimes like a never-ending journey. I do hear that comment a lot. How many more meetings and votes and approvals do we need? Well, the answer is only a couple more. They're big ones. We've been stuck on them for a while. But the answer is, yeah, a lot of the heavy lifting has actually already taken place. Okay, there are some fans who feel like they get what's happened. We know that this has come a long ways. We are so close, but we also understand that we're far away right now. This is not a 20-minute conversation that's going to fix everything. This project has accumulated a ton of wins, an EIR that's solid, interest by the city, interest by the county, the approval of the BCDC to remove port priority use from the Howard Terminal site, even jumping into a negotiating agreement with the Port of Oakland for the A's to work on this. Like, a lot of things have already gone the exact way you want it if you favor this project. But we've been stuck on this one for about a year now. The project still needs a development agreement between the A's and the city of Oakland. And as I just mentioned, they not only need that, but the other part of that is to figure out where the infrastructure money comes from, offsite infrastructure, sewers, sidewalks, transportation, all the things that the neighborhood needs to thrive. How exactly are we going to bridge the gap of paying for that? And so one relies on the other. Like, you can't make an agreement unless you know you can secure that money and where it's coming from and who's responsible for overruns. Like, there's a lot to be sorted out. But we are literally that close. If we can get past that, like I said, it does seem like dominoes are bound to fall. So close, but seemingly so far. And again, this is just the fan perspective. I want to be very clear on this. What I'm saying, I'm not alluding to the fact that two sides aren't talking, or maybe they are close, but the public perception is that we've been stuck on this for so long that progress is not seen or understood. So how could it be thought to be made right now? And the two sides are still talking. I do want to 1,000% confirm that. I talked to Dan Cobb the other day, District 1 city council member, and he's saying, hey, sometimes it's the things you don't see where progress is actually being made. So let's be very clear. Again, this is not an update. This is just to relay public sentiment. A lot of people feel like, man, this has come so close, and it would be a shame. It would be a shame if we're this close and it doesn't get any closer. So I definitely want to spell that one out. All right, the next reason why some fans are bummed out is because of peer pressure, and they see other teams and other cities that have already gone through an entire new arena or stadium process, and this seems so much easier elsewhere. Let me give you an example. I cover hockey. The NHL's Coyotes, they used to play in Phoenix when they first they moved, and then they found their new home in Glendale. And then as of the last couple years, there was conflict, there was tension. Apparently the team wasn't always paying their rent on time, and there were disagreements about the upkeep and the building. And look, a hockey team playing in Glendale, Arizona just was never really the best idea to begin with. But the arena out there said, you know what, we're done with you guys. You are evicted. Well, the Coyotes desperately needed a new home. Fortunately for them, ASU's hockey team, a college hockey team, was building a brand new arena, 5,000 seats in Tempe. We'll play there for now. That was their answer. But the Coyotes, literally in the last couple months, have already come up with plans for a brand new world-class facility in Tempe, 19,000 seats. And the vote on it, literally the binding vote that we would all love for the A's and Oakland to have for Howard Terminal, like it's not scheduled because there's no agreement, but the binding vote for that arena is in May. Like there's already a date for that vote. They just got kicked out of their facility last year. April basically was their last game. So we're not even a year removed from them getting kicked out of the place they called home. And now they've already got, the vote. I think it'll pass. But we go back to Oakland and the A's in this situation, and it's complex. This is California. It's different out here. But sometimes you see how other teams and cities have it. And I've never been here to say that quick equals a good deal for both sides. I'm patient. I will take all day so long as this is the right deal. The last thing you want to have, the very last thing you want to have, is a Raiders type situation all over again, right? And I mean that because then there's remorse, then the relationship doesn't work well. We're trying to get to something here that can be beneficial for the next 50 to 100 years of the A's existence in Oakland so that all sides are happy, so that this feels like a really good relationship and not something that's a constant struggle that leads to other problems down the road, right? Like the Raiders didn't care. They wanted to do it dirty, get in, do it dirty, and then they moved again. And I understand Oakland's, cautious behavior, and I think sometimes, and this has been well documented, they kind of have to understand they can't hold it against the A's of what the Raiders did, clearly. But again, I want a good deal for both sides. And sometimes that takes time. But yeah, it is frustrating to see other teams and cities just go, whoop, there you go. We've worked it out like in less than a year. So there is that peer pressure. And yeah, maybe sometimes there's even the peer pressure of hearing about Las Vegas. I don't know what's going on down there. I have not seen anything publicly or finite or that equals concerning progress from an Oakland perspective. But obviously that's kind of part of the whole peer pressure of this too. And I think last but not least here, there's a lot of people who look at this project and they're frustrated. They're bummed out because they're like, oh my gosh, how can we not get this done? This would be such a hit. I know what Jack London Square is all about. I know what's happening in downtown Oakland. I know what's happening kind of along the waterfront, all the way basically from Brooklyn Basin all the way up to, the Port of Oakland. And you can kind of see the wheels in motion and what an awesome addition the ballpark and that neighborhood would be and what this would mean for not only Oakland, but Alameda County and the East Bay and future generations. And so many people understand. They look at the renderings and they do the math and they say, how does anybody lose here in the long run? And they know it would be a hit. It's kind of where I stand in all this. And they're bummed out because it's like, it's all right there for you to just execute. How can this not, what a missed opportunity if this doesn't happen. And so I think some people are bummed out, again, because it's like, it's so clear for them to see, but it's just not actually making the tangible, timely progress that they would hope for. So again, to be very clear, this is not me saying I'm bummed out right now. Yeah, I wish things were a little bit different, and we'll see what the next couple months bring. I've got nothing on the table. I've got nothing on the horizon that I'm hiding from you, that I'm holding from you. I'm just here, again, to translate that public sentiment. I've been around a lot of A's fans recently. They ask me a lot of questions, a lot of good questions, and a lot of trying to be informed questions. They're trying to know the bigger picture here, and I want to know from them, how are you feeling about this? Now that you know, how are you feeling? And yeah, that's kind of a situation right now. Again, I'm making this video because I hope that is not the sentiment in the next couple months. And I hope that someday, because this will live on YouTube, I guess, virtually forever, I hope we can someday look back on this video and say, remember when we felt that way? Ha ha! It's not a problem anymore because it happened. And I think that's what I'll leave you with is this whole entire process, right? It's like a game. You're up a couple runs. You might be down a couple runs. The game's not over yet. You're tied for longer than you feel comfortable. You feel like you should be winning the game, but you're not, or you're losing and you feel like you should be winning. I'm just here to say that you will have such a short-term memory if this project comes to fruition. I get it. You will not forget the years it took and the decades it took overall for the A's to find their new home. But the first 20 games you go to a new ballpark at Howard Terminal, that all kind of gets washed away. Think about a lot of the difficult things you've gone through in your life. You remember the effort and the hard work to get you to ultimately where you needed to be, but it's not as fresh as it was in the moment when you were going through it. So again, and I hope that's the case. I hope we can revisit this video at some other point and say, yeah, oh yeah, this wasn't that bad. Even though right now, yeah, like I said, a lot of people kind of expressing this sentiment. So thanks for watching. I know you'll put your comments down below. I appreciate that. Thumbs up on this video if it provided you some value. And don't forget, subscribe to this channel. Cover a lot of different things, Howard Terminal included.